So I have a question
slippery
then.
slope. Yeah.
I think for Wendy and yourself.
Yes.
With your experience and your professional capacity, with the police, with the judicial system in general, how often are people referring the Canadian Bill of Rights? Because what I read, what I see when the police are speaking, all of these bodies are always referencing the Charter of Rights. And until you had brought forward the Bill of Rights, I didn't know there was a Canadian Bill of Rights. And most people that I talk to always think of an American version. So what has been your experience, Wendy, in your capacity?
Human rights has been a really hot topic for a long time. Youth like to hear about human rights and seniors as well. But nobody is really teaching the Bill of Rights. And the reason why, the government has a much more difficult time controlling the people if the people know their human rights. So our job today is to teach people, the children and the adults, about their human rights. When people know their human rights, they walk a little taller. They feel more confident. They know their boundaries. They feel like they have these rights, and they know them, that they're not from the government, they're not from the police, they're from, because our laws are based on the supremacy of God and the rule of law for everybody. And so that's where our human rights come from. So it's very, very vital that people know their human rights. If they're going to win and hang on to our country, a Bill of Rights, what can it do for you? It can give you freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, freedom to go to your church. And so it's very, very important that the people understand their human rights, that we have a huge campaign across our country to teach people their human rights.
Great, good. And what I'm hearing then, the differentiator between the Charter and the Bill is the Charter has Section 1, where it pushes you through the judiciary system for a judge to make that decision, where the Bill of Rights states in it, these are your rights. This is an immediate remedy, and the only thing that can override that would be an act of Parliament, and that has not happened during this pandemic.
And it's not likely to happen. I don't think something like that would pass if they have to expressly say we're going to eliminate religious freedom or expression or press or anything like that. I think that it wouldn't happen. It just it wouldn't move. It wouldn't go anywhere. And I'm glad.
I think Vicky's got a question. If I just put her hand.
Oh yes, please, Vicky.
So, with the Bill of Rights, can we use it in some way against some of the smaller regulators? Like, like for example, in Alberta, we have like AGLC or liquor licensing people, and what they're doing for a small business in Alberta is they've been gaining up on, like, ticking them off one by basically eliminating all of their licenses, all in like one day to like 3 days. All their licenses are gone, and then usually they'll talk to their landlord, even though they'll lose their city license. Then they talk to the landlord and have them evicted.
Right. Did you hear what she had said?
Yeah.
I know Alberta is a little bit of a different beast than the rest of Canada, but is the Bill of Rights something that we can use for these licensed regulators where they're threatening to, maybe it's public health or it's a liquor license, whatever it may be? How, and I think we talked about it a little bit, but using the Bill of Rights as a tool to protect your rights, maybe we can talk a little bit about how you use it and in situations when it can be applied.
Well, I didn't realize until recently, I didn't understand that public health has never had the authority to walk right into your house, or your business, and they have taken that right, basically, as long as I can remember. But on the books, it only allows entry by police and only with a criminal warrant. So with that knowledge, we can stop them at the door. So they won't have any evidence to base these decisions on that they're making. And plus, any of those decisions would be appealable. So if they're removing their license or anything they do is appealable. And if it's government, you can raise, you can even use the charter. There's ways to use the charter that don't compromise what you're trying to do, which I won't discuss today, but you can bring up constitutional arguments. And for Vicky, they've got an Alberta Bill of Rights. So they can just use Bill of Rights, period. They don't even have to bring in the charter. So they can challenge they can use the Alberta Bill of Rights to challenge that these COVID measures are a violation of their rights, and the subsequent penalties that they've imposed with regard to the application of these are also in kind violations of rights. So I think you have a really good chance of addressing those things. And in the meantime, they should still be able to operate, because otherwise, you know, guilty until, or you're innocent until proven guilty. So if they're saying, oh, you didn't do this, so we're pulling your license, well, you should still be able to operate as long as you're in an appeal process. And then you can bring your Bill of Rights, in Alberta, you can bring your Bill of Rights issues up, and in Ontario, we can bring up charter issues. And there are some charter issues that, there are some constitutional issues that you can use that are like more sound and more enforceable than charter issues. So it's all doable, and the key thing for the Bill of Rights is that they can't use force. So they can't plow into your business and investigate whatever the allegation is or whatever. You can just stop them at the door. And so that's going to slow things down quite a bit, because if they could use force, then they can shut your business with force, and then you stay closed until the matter is resolved through the appeal process. But if they can't come in and they can't force you closed, you just stay open and continue to operate until all of the appeal processes are done, whatever they might be.
So the first offense is not letting them into your business, not letting them into your home. And I know you've been sharing the trespass notice.
Yeah.
We have that on our site as well at stanfordy.ca. And that can be used for your business, and it can be used for your home. And that is to prevent the police, bylaw, any public health or licensing arm of the government, and to prevent them from coming into your space.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of the first line of defense. Now, Anthony, I think that you...
Just before you go on, I just want to explain it just a little bit more.
Yeah.
What Rebecca's talking about is a notice. I think I have one. Chris, where was it? Put it up, and be able to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Jane, while you look for that, I just wanted to say that with Alberta having their Bill of Rights provincially, and Canada having the Canadian Bill of Rights, I like to call that the two-punch COVID restriction knockout.
Absolutely.
I think Alberta is in a wonderful position to bring the rest of the country out of this using these two pieces of legislation.
Yeah. So this, I don't know if it can be picked up by the camera. Can they see that? This way? You can see it? Okay. So it's called a trespass notice. And what it does is it removes what's called an implied consent for police, bylaw, and public health to go into your business. Because when you have, like, say, a restaurant, and your restaurant's open to the public health can just march right in there. And they claim that they have an implied right to be in there because they're a member of the public also. So in order to cancel that implied consent for them only, you can create a no trespass notice that specifically says police, but municipal bylaw officers, and public health authorities. And you're saying that there's no entry allowed unless there's a criminal warrant, which that's the only right that the state has to enter either your home or your business against your wishes, as if it's a criminal warrant. And that's not the case for all the COVID stuff because it's not criminal, it's bylaw. And this, and you can defend your home too. Oh, good. So there it is there. So that's being used by businesses, and as Rebecca says, you can find a copy of it on stanfordy.ca.
It's under the small business package.
Small business package, and there's some other documents in there that can be used in support of this document, there's a liability statement. So in other words, if they don't respect your no trespassing, they're acting illegally, and there's financial responsibilities or penalties for that, and that's what that's all about.
And we also have the Bill of Rights in there too.
Oh yeah, and the Bill of Rights. So we're recommending to actually there's a decorative copy of the Bill of Rights that's in the front there, down there,
She's showing the one in
or this one. Yeah.
on the ground.
There's one there.
So it's a one-page document. You can download that and put it in. You can do this in your home or your church or your business, and that stops them dead in their tracks.
We
And it
even
gives
talked
you-
about using it for our cars.
Exactly, in your cars and vehicles, yeah, exactly. So this slows things down, because if they're on you about, say, keeping your business open, well, you can continue to stay open. Unlike if you're using the charter, you have to stay closed in the meantime, because they're going to enforce. But with the Bill of Rights, you stop them at the door, and if there's any further pursuance of it, at least your business stays open through that pursuance. And I don't think they'd ever be able to uphold anything at the end of the day in court in terms of that these measures having been legitimate and important for public health. So, questions?
I think we should have a discussion on public health one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, for our rights. Yeah.
That's a good point, Jason, because I personally called the RCMP in Alberta, and they told me you have to call the Alberta Health Services. They're calling the shots. That's what I was told from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. I don't understand.
Ford said something like that too. If you don't listen to the public health, it's like suicide or jumping off a bridge or something.
He said he'd tie a noose around your neck and jump off a bridge.
Yeah.
And the response of the two guys behind him was the public health guy, and he was like, yeah. And the other guy's eyes went really wide, and he kind of was like, what?
Yeah.
Because they should be also governed by our Bill of Rights, I would think.
Yes. Yes.
And these bureaucrats are making bylaws for us and laws that we think that the Canadian public think that they have to obey when we really don't.
But I thought, people keep saying that, but isn't it not true, Jane, that they're policies? They're making up policies, they're not in real laws, right?
They're
That's the right
bylaws.
thing.
Yeah.
And they're bureaucrats. They're not elected officials.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
And public health, these are all orders.
Yeah.
But they're not, and then it's being contorted into something different, and then people are acting in fear because of a public health order.
Yeah, exactly. But we're having businesses put the sign up, and we're getting really good feedback that the police and the bylaw and the public health are stopping and not going in. And if they do go in and they don't have a sign, the owner can order them to leave. You don't have to have a sign, but they're going to walk in anyway, so I'd rather use a sign, and that means they can't even cross the threshold. They have to leave. And if you have it right at the edge of your property, they can't even step a foot on your property. Yeah.
That's what Dave was telling me, they used a futuristic tandy.
Yes,
He
yes,
brought
yes, they were very happy with that. Yeah, he's brought in a few. There was a gym owner in Ottawa. Dave set that up, and I brought it over to them, and they put it on their front door and their back door, and the police came, and he said they read it, and they seemed pleased with it. They didn't say anything, but they were like, oh, you know. And then they said, well, just make sure that your customers don't block the road. So the owner said, okay, and that was it. They left.
And this was just recently.
Yes, last week. The day of the emergency stay-at-home warning that came on the phone, he had a huge crowd there, and he had a sign out on the sidewalk saying, we're open for business. So there's no question that he was opening in defiance of the higher level of lockdown than we had the first time, and he's flying it right out there. And it's been now since last Thursday, I believe it was. So we're coming up to a week. So and many others are saying that they've had similar. Barry, he was supposed to be here tonight, but he couldn't make it. He's also a gym owner, and he had a call with the with the OPP yesterday, and he said, I have a no trespass notice there, and I'm not going to be pushed around. Like, I'm going to fight, and I'm going to fight in I forget how he put it, but a very public way. So you're not going to get away with. And the cops said, "Oh no, that won't be necessary. I'm just making inquiries." And just back to